Is there such a thing as too much luck? Is there such a thing as too much fun? Messing around, wondering how it's taken so long. I'm really so strong. It's not too much at all.
Welcome to Too Much with Denise Love Hewett.
Thanks, Denise.
We have such a fun episode. I get to be here with one of my nearest and dearest friends who I not only deeply admire as a business leader, but as a human being. And today we are going to talk about ritual. And ritual is about as old as humanity. It's how we mark time, create time, make memories, and pass stories on. Every single one of us has a unique personal or family ritual that we can expound on. What is it about ritual that connects with us? Why is it so human? I brought the most intentional ritual maker, creator, liver I know, Aishwarya Iyer, here to help us understand more. She infuses ritual into her friends' lives and her company in the most seamless, joyful, and expressive ways. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled.
I'm going to read your bio before we begin so people get the whole vibe. Aishwarya Iyer is the founder and CEO of Brightland, the first category-defining olive oil brand known for making the freshest, highest quality olive oils, honeys, and vinegars on the market. Since its inception, Brightland has been featured by the New York Times, Vogue, Food and Wine, Fast Company, and many more publications. Aishwarya has been named on Create and Cultivate's 100 and in Inc.'s Female Founders 100. Aishwarya also hosts a podcast, Recent Eats, where she speaks with interesting people about what they've been eating lately. Previously, Aishwarya spent over a decade in public affairs and corporate communications at various technology companies in both New York City and LA. She started her career at L'Oreal in the luxury products division at Lancome and is a graduate of NYU's Gallatin School of Individualized Study, just like me.
Yay!
So, before we begin, I had looked up what the dictionary defines ritual as. So, I'm going to read that for us. And I think it probably needs an update, is what I need to tell Merriam-Webster.
Yes.
They define it as a religious or solemn ceremony consisting of a series of actions performed according to a prescribed order. And I think ritual is bigger than that now. I don't think it's just these solemn moments or religious environments. So, what is your definition of ritual? How do you think about ritual?
I go in two directions. I go into the 6-year-old who is sitting there, maybe in India or watching my parents do exactly what the Merriam-Webster definition was, some kind of religious cultural ritual, and sort of being like, okay, this is a part of me, but I don't feel like this is me, and felt this sense of disconnect. And then I fast forward to my present self, and I think about ritual as moments to just close some of the tabs in your brain and look inward. It's as simple as that. That's
I love
ritual.
that.
Whatever you need to do, once you close some of the tabs in your brain, look inward, and what is calling to you.
There's categories, like there's the daily ritual. I get up, I do my journaling pages, I have my coffee, do my meditation.
That's
Then
there's habit rituals. I think there's something really sacred about listening to your voice, not necessarily turning everything into to-dos or habits or turning into like a robot, but there's so much that can actually come out of pausing, reflecting, and then saying, okay, I'm going to bring this out into something that I want to do. That to me is ritual.
yeah, I agree. That's why I'm like, that definition doesn't make sense to me because I think of it as so much more expansive than that. Whereas I look back at my family, we had some religious rituals, but as a Jewish person, we made things that were our own. Actually, I tried to find a picture of this before this episode, but my parents weren't very good at documenting our youth. Hanukkah is not a very important holiday in the Jewish religion, actually. It was just made bigger because of Christmas and it's the same time period. And so it made, I guess, Jewish kids feel more included to have presents come with Hanukkah. So because we don't have Santa, and because my sister, I was probably like 5, my sister was like, why do we have a Christmas tree? We're not Christian. So the Christmas tree went away, which to this day I'm still sad about because I think decorating a Christmas tree is very fun. So in replacement of that, my mother had this Hanukkah rabbi made out of like, it was stuffed like in hosiery, like it was like a little person, and he had like glasses, little payas, little yarmulke. And what would happen is that one night out of the 8 nights, a present would appear from the Hanukkah rabbi. And it's so specific and unique to my family, but I feel like every family has a story like that. And so I don't know, based on your cultural background, because I know I've experienced some of these beautiful rituals with you right before the birth of your daughter. We went to a beautiful bangle ceremony, but I don't know if your family has specific things that you made your own.
It's a good question. Something that my husband and I made our own was we said, okay, whenever we're cooking Indian food or something from our heritage, let's listen to that music and
Mm.
really bring ourselves into that moment and like experience it fully, because it's not something for my parents and for a lot of first generation immigrants or the immigrants that came from their home country, especially South Asian countries. Their expression and how they express their culture and heritage is throughout the day. It's every day.
Mm.
It's in every ritual, almost every ritual. But for me, it's not like that. I have to be extremely intentional about it and choiceful. I get to also be choiceful about it. And I think it's sort of a delight to be able to take something that is from where you come from or your ancestral space and then thread it in, but have it be like, okay, and that's that. And then I can go on with my day. There is something really like lovely about that. And I feel very free to
Yeah.
be able to do that.
It's very cool to see how everyone's interpreting their cultures and making everything their own. Do
Yeah.
you feel like you are more ritually inclined because of your cultural background?
I think the opposite. I think that I actually swung the other way, where I was like, there's so many rituals, so many to-dos, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that I have a fiercely independent and fiercely paving my own way, charting my own course mentality and path. Yeah. And so I think that I think for a long time I didn't believe in ritual. And then I started seeing the benefits of pausing, reflecting, and building daily rituals or weekly rituals, however small or big they might be. And I think the one that has changed my entire life is meditation. That's the
Mm.
biggest one of all.
Yeah. Well, they say that when you do incorporate ritual into your life, you actually increase your creativity
Yeah.
and you are able to work more expediently.
Mm.
That's what ritual does to human brains. I've been looking at some of the history of ritual and how it affects your brain. And there's something about it that humans just we inherently need. And I don't know why.
Mm.
And whether it's collectively, what can happen is it can lower your anxiety. So when you're all doing something together, your brains start to become in sync together.
But Denise, I think it's because we feel a sense of meaning and purpose. And I think we
Yes.
are constantly looking for meaning and purpose in everything that we're doing. And I think that in 21st century workplace, American domination, hypercapitalism, working is that you're going to find all your meaning and purpose in your work and in the monetary benefits that you gain. However, at the end of the day, the like ancients sort of knew that that's probably not it. We are deeply complex, more complex than I think we understand ourselves to be. And so this is where something like ritual comes into play, because it reminds us of something bigger than ourselves while also being so inherently maybe small. And the ritual itself, the act itself, might seem routine or rote or mundane or use any of those words, but it's tying together something so much deeper. And then collectively, like you said, if you have so many people doing that, there is an overall sense of anxiety that comes down. And I think that we're actually losing more ritual than ever because we're we're all more distracted by these phones, which take away. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you are in the act of consuming, you're in the act of being a passive observer rather than an active participant in your own life.
Yeah, we're also with COVID's a good example. How many people didn't get to graduate, walk down a stage, if that is something that was important to them? They were robbed of that opportunity. And a lot of people felt like they missed out on this big milestone of their lives, not having that experience. And so there's something to be said for sharing space and marking time together that we are losing as we become more and more reliant on virtual experiences versus in person connectivity.
Definitely. Yeah.
In terms of bringing ritual to your work life, because I have to imagine you have to do that to give it more meaning.
Mm.
How do you think about that, whether it's just being a leader, a manager, running a team? A great example is you just did your beautiful paint and pour gift set over Mother's Day. And that felt, and for those that don't know, we'll let Aishwarya explain here in 1 second. That felt very much like you were building a ritual into product. Can you just talk a little bit about how that works in your business life?
Yes. So the paint and pour set that you just alluded to, it was a new product that we came out with in the spring. And basically, Brightland has always been rooted in being inspired by art and design. And we've done that with collaborations with artists on our labels and in our packaging and everything. But then at one point, we asked ourselves, what if the customer themselves is the artist and the bottles are canvas? The sky's the limit. Why don't we let people do that? And everyone always tells us Brightland bottles are works of art. So we want to give people the opportunity, and we also want people to get off of their phones and live a lo-fi moment for a second. And so it was so many things that actually converged together that made this the perfect thing to launch. And we also said, what about the ritual, creating a ritual with someone you love, maybe the person who created you, your mom? Like, how special would that be? So it was three things that came together, and it was the perfect spring launch. And it was so amazing to see tens of thousands of people like love and enjoy this product. In terms of ritual in business, it's such a good question. I try to bring elements of my spirituality rituals into business. I'll say out loud, like, why don't we all take a deep breath? Why don't we start the meeting with a meditation? So I'll do things like that. But I'm a person that shies away from things becoming robotic and like almost like thoughtless habits. And so for me, it has to be taking the temperature in a room, looking inward myself, and then saying, okay, you know what? It's time to do this practice or this ritual. So that's the way that I've approached it. But I'd be curious to understand how others, yeah, and if you've heard of other people who incorporate rituals in a really meaningful way in their work practices.
I think the biggest thing in a work practice is the buy-in, right? Everyone has to buy into the idea that you're all doing this ritual together, which can be hard as companies grow to
Yeah.
have that level of joint attention towards the thing. In my last podcast, I had someone who helps build culture at companies, and she basically was saying that you have to have the people that are at your company should buy into the values of your company. And great companies have very clear values that people align with. And when that happens, magic happens, because if they're not in alignment with the values, then you get, okay, on paper, you're saying this, but then you're living this.
Yep.
And so those things have to be in congruence. And so Brightland probably does a great job of saying the people that are coming to work for you are buying in to the values of what you are building. And so there probably is just a higher percentage of buy-in than, say, a larger corporation where they don't have the same capacity to be as intentional.
Yeah, totally. I'm not envious of larger organizations. That's tough for folks. Yeah, because I'm very explicit around our values, and I also talk openly about what kind of organization we want to run, like a calm one that isn't just like everyone always feels like chickens with their heads cut off. And okay, well, what does that mean? How does that come into practice? Because yeah, maybe there are back-to-backs that a lot of people are on. All right, if you've been on calls for an hour and a half, like if you get on a call with me right after that, let's take a moment to breathe and pause. It's just a minute, 2 minutes, and it's like a world of a difference.
Do you find it's simple for you to stay that present, or are there times where you get swept in the tunnel of just there's a lot of things happening and
Definitely get swept into the tunnel when a lot of things are happening. And actually, it's not even the a lot of things happening. It's actually the ritual of food and hydration and things like that. I think it's so easy to be in the zone, in the moment. And before you know it, you're like, oh my gosh, it's been a couple hours since I took a sip of water, since I ate something nourishing. And the minute you do that, you're able to reset and then be back in the present, but not so much in the zone of almost getting to a place of freneticness,
yeah.
frantic. Yeah,
I still struggle a bit with the when I'm in that like go, go, go state to take a step back. I'm working on that to be more aware when I'm in that go state because I tend to be like, let's get stuff done, which
going.
is great. Great. Love that about myself that I'm able to be really associated and execute. But I can see that older programming that can show up. And then I'm like, I don't want to be like that all
Totally.
the time.
Yep, totally. And I also think there's nothing better than the ritual of a walk.
Ugh. Non negotiable in my new life. I'll tell you that.
Game changing.
It is. And I don't do it every single day. I definitely was doing it every single day during the pandemic, but it is very important for me. And like thousands of books prove this. The science proves this. It's going to be in my book. But like walking, what it does for your brain and creative generation should be a non negotiable for every single human being. But beyond that, every single company and corporation. You
Yeah,
should demand your employees go for a walk because it is fundamentally better to how they're going to show up and do their work.
couldn't agree with you more. But I think it starts with ourselves too. I had the last couple of days, I haven't gone on a walk and I feel it. Yeah, I feel it. It's my thinking, my resilience, even
Hmm.
an ability to see the bigger picture.
What do you mean by resilience?
Well, I'm in the business where things are always something, things are not always golden. Something's always going wrong. There's always some miscommunicate. There's always something, right? Because it's business. And usually if I've gone on a walk, if I've done the rituals, then I'm way more grounded and you can see the forest through the trees. You see the bigger picture. And so
Mm,
that gives you resilience
mm,
versus being like, whoa, this day is overcoming me. It's overtaking me. The day is bigger than me, which is never true.
100%.
The challenge of the day.
I talked to one of my former employees last night who's in the thick of some intense work stuff,
Mm,
and we had to Zoom out together because the instance was compounding with grief and trauma, so it then became this much bigger nebulous cloud
mm,
that we had to peel back from and get to a place where I was like, you are not doomed. This is not the thing. This is not going to run your life. This is a temporary moment, a temporary state. And thank God she was able to get herself out of there and have that perspective. But it's so true because when you're in the thick of it, you can just feel like, I have no agency.
yeah, exactly.
What is your minimum amount of time that you will go for a walk?
Mm, like 7 minutes
7 minutes?
minimum.
Wow. I think mine is minimum 20.
Mm. I mean, ideally, 20 to 30 is
Yeah.
like great. And then if it's 30 to an hour, it's like, whoa, this has changed. A lot has happened. But
Yeah.
20 to 30 is like, okay, good spot. But if it's, hey, I haven't walked and I have to clear my head, 7 to 10 minutes, you can clear some tabs out.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. I feel like I always go with a destination in mind. So it's my dog and I, we're going to go get coffee or we're going to go here. And
Mhm.
then that walk is minimum 20 minutes versus,
Mhm.
yeah. I'll try the 7 to 10.
If it's a day where you're like, I'm overcome by this day and I don't know if I have it in me for the coffee or the 20-minute, 30-minute, the 7 to 10 helps too. Anything.
It's good to know because I don't know. We'd have to ask a neuroscientist, but I'm like, what are the brain effects based on the amount of time you're walking? I'm
Mm.
just curious. And I believe you if you say 7 feels sufficient, that it's probably happening quicker than we realize.
Yeah, like 7 clears a tab or two, 20 to 30 clears like 5 tabs, and then 30 to an hour clears like 50 tabs.
The whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're a new mother.
Yes.
We love your little baby girl. And can you tell us, as you're building a family with a child in mind, have you thought about rituals you want to instill in her life?
Yeah, we've talked about and thought about joyful rituals. What does it mean to maybe do like a weekly breakfast snacking cake baking activity once a week? I think food is something both Rajan and I love so much. So I think everything comes back to food. So that's one that we've been talking about since before she was born. We talk about rituals for the holidays. We really want to celebrate every single holiday in a meaningful way with her and have her remember that as part of her life in her core memories, hopefully. And then the big one right now is I keep thinking about what does it mean to do like a weekly cake with my daughter, like a
I love
snacking
that.
cake, something that's just really lightweight but has a lot of fruit in it, maybe like an olive oil fruit cake, like something like that, berries.
I love that. Cake.
And we both make that together every week. We know that like Sunday afternoon, we're both baking that together.
That's really sweet. Because those are the things, especially when you're young. My mom was the queen of birthday parties.
Mm.
So I always had a crazy, wild, big themed birthday party. And I remember them all so intimately. And they were just like at our house. There were nothing like, my mom was cooking the cake, baking these amazing cakes. And it was very simple. Like I had a Hollywood themed birthday party when I was like
Oh,
7 or 8. And we drew chalk stars on the sidewalk as the Walk of Fame.
wow.
And yeah, and then everyone dressed up. And then my mom put a star in the door with my name. So it was like my dressing room. But it was simple. It wasn't a crazy expensive birthday, but and we did one that was garden themed a couple years later, and she did like a dirt cake with gummy worms that went in. Really
That's
fun.
so creative, Denise. I
I,
actually am obsessed
I
with all that. That's incredible.
well, we have to give credit where credit is due. Many of these ideas came from RIP American Girl magazine,
Oh,
which
man.
was exceptional at coming up with easy, fun birthday ideas and games that were simple. And we live in a time where kids' birthday parties feel really they've 10x'd or they're a bit more extravagant than they used to be. And ours were always simple, but they were really special and really fun. And they're some of my core childhood memories are these birthday parties, which it's probably why to this day I still love a birthday party because they're some of the fondest memories or rituals that I had.
I think I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So cake as ritual.
Cake is ritual for Sona and I.
I love that. I love that you're building that with her. Do you have an early childhood memory of rituals that your family did?
Oh my gosh, so many. Yeah, so many. My mom made a particular Indian sweet every birthday for me. And she would have me like, she would put a candle on that Indian sweet and she would cut it in these like diamond shapes. It was like sugar, butter, flour thing. So it's cake, but it was like an Indian-y cake thing. So many like cultural religious rituals. I didn't know what they meant, but I would go back to India almost every summer, and my grandparents would do something every few weeks, and I just knew what it was called in Tamil, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but now I know what it is. It was celebrating and honoring the new moon.
Oh, wow.
You have as a new moon ceremony, and you honor your ancestors during that time,
I
and you
love that.
invoke their names. New moon or full moon? I don't know. One of the moons. But perfect example of me not understanding the meaning of the ritual, but watching it be done with
Yeah.
so much care and so much passion. Yeah. So many. I can keep going.
Aishwarya had a bangle ceremony before the birth of her daughter, which is an Indian, I guess, the Indian version of a baby shower. Is that the best way to put it? Yeah. It was so gorgeous on so many levels and so thoughtful. And I could see sort of beyond just how I know you to be a ritual creator. I could see that your mom is also a wondrous ritual creator. She had the craziest goodie bags, I'm just going to say. obsessed. But it was very beautiful, but it was also so cool to hear what everything meant.
Yeah.
It felt so much more significant to me than an American baby shower, which is just like, come, we'll hang out, because there was added meaning to every step.
I mean, look, like it's rooted in Hinduism, and Hinduism is 5,000 years old. We're talking about 5,000 years of understanding what meaning, and in comparison, like an American baby shower is what, 50 years old?
Yeah.
60 years old? It's a baby. I think over time, maybe in 1,000 years, if somebody is still doing an American baby shower, maybe there'll be so much meaning stacked on top. But this is taking something with the Indian bangle ceremony. It was taking something that's probably a few thousand years old. And so, yeah, everything was rooted in like, okay, you put the bangles on the mom because they're clinking and the baby hears them clink. There's certain colors that are associated with different vibrations and like opening different chakras. The ash and the thing that everyone put on my forehead has very, very deep significance. I mean, it really is almost overwhelming with meaning.
Mhm.
And that's where I think it's so interesting that you chose me to have this conversation about ritual and meaning, because I think that's where a little part of me is overwhelmed by the amount of ritual and meaning. And I
Mm,
think unless it's explained to you in this is what this means and this is what this signifies, it's really easy to disregard it.
right.
So I'm
Right.
actually floored that this is our topic of conversation, because it's such a complex conversation for me to be having.
I understand, but that's what makes it interesting. I don't think
Yeah.
this has to be not a complex conversation.
No, it's not exactly. No, and I think I would love to simplify it and just be like, yeah, my rituals are some self-care and some meditation and Christmas, and like that's it. But no, it's like deeply, deeply more layered than that. And it's also then me taking some of that, but also letting some of that go.
But I
Um,
think that's right. To have a vocabulary of being overwhelmed by ritual, I don't think that's how many of us feel these days. We
yeah,
are losing sight in the world that we live in that is more and more niche,
yeah,
and people can find their own little avenues of what they're interested in. We are losing monoculture. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but one of the things I loved about monoculture, when we had TV shows we would all watch every week, or rituals we all shared together,
yeah.
is that there was a sense of community and meaning built around that. And now that we are losing that, I think it's so much more important to go chase it and figure out what are the rituals that you want to bring into the world, bring to your community, and then pass on.
I think that's beautifully said. It's so beautifully said. And I think it's what you said about like community and pass it on, because whose community? What does that mean anymore?
Yeah. And you have an encyclopedia to pull from. So for me, that's very interesting because I
Yeah.
have my family's rituals. I have things that I'm creating or bringing into the world, but you have a 5,000-year history of
Yeah.
things to pick and choose from and share with us.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then the things that I choose to, my parents and I also had a ritual of going to Pizza Hut at once a month. Also
Mhm.
had a ritual of watching, gosh, what was the show? My mom, my dad, and I would sit and watch Perfect Strangers
I don't
together.
know it.
It's from the 80s.
I'll have to look it up.
Just like cute little vignettes of
Yeah.
things that just works. And so it was taking what my parents, I think, saw when they came to this country and then marrying them with a 5,000-year,
Mhm.
incredibly rich, ritualized. And my mom is a big believer. She always says that she thinks that rituals were developed so that the human mind would have something to look forward to every day or every week.
So
Like
interesting.
the ritual of there's something called a kolam in South Indian culture. It's called rangoli in other parts of India. You take rice flour and you create designs, and you do that in front of your home, and you do it to every morning. The woman of the house creates
Mm,
different designs using that rice flour, and then the ants come and eat that rice flour. So it's like sustainable and like circular.
mm.
But you're also saying, "Hey, we're here." It's like a way to stamp that you're in town, that you're here, and it also takes you probably 25, 30 minutes to do it. So
Yeah.
it's like check the box there. Then another ritual of making sure that you always take the first few grains of rice and give them to the pigeons. Check the box on a ritual. I mean, I can keep going. Like it
Yeah.
is and like throughout the day. And then there's different rituals based on the different cycles of the moon, different rituals based on different, you want to pray for strength and overcoming obstacles. There are rituals to do that.
Gives purpose is what I'm hearing.
Exactly.
And I can see how you would interpret that. Okay, here's this checklist of things I have to do. I don't want to do that. I want more agency. So that feels robotic and autonomous.
Yep.
But for many people that are less connected to their purpose or what their soul is telling them, this might be what they need.
Exactly. But I never could understand that. And my mom a few years ago really like spelled it out that way of like, I think this is what people needed
Yeah.
thousands of years ago and still need.
People for sure need to connect, exactly what you're saying, go inward, connect back to themselves, because we all have that
But
inner
we
call.
don't always know what to do with that. You can go inward and then you're sort of like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? But if you have somewhat, let's say, of a playbook of, okay, the moon is in this position right now. Here's what that means. Here's what you may be feeling. You may be feeling, because we're all, women especially are like governed by the moon. This is the time for you to make this certain food when the moon is in this position. Maybe this is a time for you to light certain lamps, candles. And that's truly what it was. But then you have the thing to look forward to.
Right.
And then you're doing it with your community. Everyone's
Mhm.
doing it. And sometimes you do it together. Everyone takes the lamps to the village river all
Mhm.
together and lets them float. Like you're doing things like that. There's the rituals that you do for yourself, personal rituals, then your immediate family rituals, then your extended family rituals, then the broader community rituals.
Yeah, it can feel overwhelming.
Overwhelming or deeply fulfilling.
I'm like you, I would want a part and parcel, because when you have some of these small things like lighting a candle per se, if you bring the right amount of attention to that task,
Yeah.
you become deeply present.
Yeah.
You become deeply content.
Yeah. Exactly. But if you're doing that 500 times,
Mhm.
then it might just become a rote thing
Sure.
that you're checking off the list.
And maybe 400 times you're not present, you're
Yeah.
somewhere else, but it's like meditation. That 100 times, that sweet spot, you get there and then you're like, I love this ritual.
Yeah. That's right.
This ritual rocks.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. When you talk about the complexity of it, what are some of the feelings you're having? What it feels very complicated about it for you?
I think it's a bit of like, is it applicable in the modern world? There's like questions about that. Is it realistic? What does it mean? If it means something, and it always means something, but if you don't know what it means, then it feels like a chore
Mm-hmm.
or a task. So those are the things. And then it's also how it's delivered to you. If somebody is telling you have to do it versus it being your
Yes.
choice, I think that changes everything too. That's for somebody who's 3 years old, 13 years old, 30 years old, and 80 years old. I think that's totally true.
No, it comes back to the buy-in, because
Yeah.
for me, it was the same. I was not very religious. As I've gotten older, that's for the reasons have changed. But I'm a very spiritual person. But as a kid, it felt like I was being forced to do a lot of things.
Mm.
And it didn't feel like I had a choice.
Mm.
And so I pulled back from the experience. And then later I pulled back for other reasons. At the core, if anything, is the more religious you get, the more patriarchal you become. There is an incongruence of values for me. So it was not something I wanted to pursue. Our temple was very different, but I found that some of the values of Judaism I love, but the religion itself is not something that I feel as connected to, which is part of what's great about it, is I get to decide what I take with me and what I leave behind.
How incredible is that to
Yeah.
have agency and to have the mental capacity to be able to do that and space to be able to create that for ourselves? That's very recent.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's been the case throughout time, especially for women.
I
So,
agree. We didn't have a lot of choice or agency, and now we can say, okay, that doesn't work for me. What works for me?
yeah,
How do I want to create my home, my community? What do I want to bring to it?
yeah,
And as we move into this age of more automation, we are going to need unique points of view, community, and meaning more than ever.
Yeah.
So that's
Me
part of
too.
why I'm newly thinking more about ritual, is because that is something people are going to want and look
Yep.
for. And
Yep.
so how do we bring things to our community, ideas, activities, events that people can start to feel themselves, but then also feel like, what do we want to pass on as a culture? We're living in a really crazy time where the world we're living in is not purporting the values that I live by.
Yep. I think it's so astute. I think a lot about religion seeing a decline in the last few years, and I actually think we're going to see it go the other way in our
Mhm.
lifetime pretty quickly, because I think people are going to say, if I'm spending most of my time online or with AI, I'm feeling very hollow on the inside. And I think people are going to turn to things, and they're going to turn to some of the oldest things out there, which some of it, I think a lot of it will be religion. And for those who don't turn in that way, they're going to be looking around for, like you said, ritual and meaning and purpose in a much bigger way. We've only scratched the surface of that, and we're going to see a lot of that in the coming decades.
We've lost our moral center, what we used to hold up as morality in society. And so if you don't all agree to the social mores we created, that is when society starts to collapse. And we need to get back to a place of that level of reverence for morality, for
Well,
meaning, for ritual.
reverence for more than money,
Yes.
right? I think that's also at the crossroads of everything.
I just even think about the scale of global horror that's happening. I feel like humans would have had more. I feel like we're like desensitized, a lot of us,
Yeah.
to the collective pain.
We are, because we were also never meant to know so much. We can only hold so much, which is why, also coming back to my mom's point about all the rituals, you knew what was going on with about 50 to 100 people around you max in your lifetime, in your world. And so you needed to create the biggest and best life you could within that box. But now the box has been splayed open. And on one hand, we would think, oh, that'll create actually so much more empathy. But I don't think that our brains are capable of that. We are capable of maybe like hyper local empathy, or empathy in smaller forms. But at such a big scale, I don't know if we have that. And then I think that all of those things are taking away from us actually being able to focus on hyper local and local community.
Yeah,
And
it's a
build
double
the right
bind.
rituals. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a double bind, because if our nervous systems were more regulated, I actually do think we have immense capacity for empathy. The problem is that the current world structure as it is that people are so overworked, underpaid, overstimulated, that their nervous system is not in a place where they are really feeling all the time
Yeah.
or can really pay attention to what they're seeing. And
Yeah.
I think if we got to that level of calm, we would find there's huge capacity for deeper empathy, huge capacity to build more community and attack these problems. But when you're trying to survive and you're told that I'm the only one that matter, I have to take care of my family, and you're
Yeah.
feeling survivalist tendencies towards your family,
Yeah.
you don't care what's happening with someone else's family.
Yes. Yep.
And so that's why when we go back to ritual, creating that sense of interdependence and community is also what helps us remember that we are not islands, and just protecting your own is not what's going to make you
I
feel
mean, but
fulfilled.
that's the difference between like Eastern and Western cultures. Like in
Yeah.
India, it's we, not me.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about your needs, or like, I'm not feeling like being social. Like, vast majority of people live in an intergenerational joint family system. What does that mean? You're with 10, 15 others. You may not be in the mood to socialize. They're going to be there. You may not be in the mood to ask them what they want to eat for dinner. You're going to have to. But you're thinking about other people more than yourself. And in hyper individualistic, we're only thinking about ourselves, and then everything becomes smaller and smaller. And then
Yeah.
before you know it, we're like, well, I'm not feeling like meeting that person, so I'm not going to.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fascinating to watch, actually. It does make me wonder what the future of ritual will look like. It does. And what does ritual look like in a world where everything is automated AI?
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to change things? Is that going to free us up, or are we going to be in deeper overwhelm?
I think it's going to bifurcate. A lot of people are going to rely on the automation and outsource their thinking ability to AI or their jobs to AI or frankly their love life to AI because that's already happening. I just read this scary article about this AI companion platform where 35 million people have signed up and have AI boyfriends and girlfriends,
Mm,
which is fine if you're feeling lonely. I don't think it's a bad thing. Once again, I look at AI as a tool. But if you're replacing your human connection with basically a programmed per- AI figure
yeah,
who's telling you what you want to hear,
yeah,
how are we growing?
yeah.
That's my biggest question is if you are talking to someone that's always telling you you're great and is cheerleading you and is not asking you the complex life questions, then you are going to stay in a fixed state and not evolve in the way that we're here to do.
Yeah.
And then the other half, that's one half people. The other half is it is going to free us up to connect more, to create more. Because if everything else can be automated, then we're left with the currency becomes your unique point of view, how you create your secret sauce. That is what will monetize
Mm,
because that is the only differentiator that will exist.
mhm.
So
I
you're
think that experiences and meeting people in the real world is going to become like worth its weight in gold over.
all of that is going to be how we will move forward. And right now we're having a gap because there's a massive population that doesn't know how to connect in real life anymore.
Yeah.
That is becoming lazier and lazier in their thinking.
Mm.
The big question and problem of our times. And I'm just trying to figure out the ways that we can stay human or bring us back to our humanity.
Well, and ritual is one of the most differentiating features that makes us human too.
Exactly. And how fun to learn from all these different big specific rituals that exist.
Yeah. And
So fun.
you know what's it is kind of interesting. One could actually use AI and say, you know what, I want to develop weekly rituals. I care about XYZ. You know, oh my gosh, actually, I did ask AI to do that for me and it put together a list.
Was it good?
Yeah, can I tell you what it did?
Please. I would love it.
I'm going to tell you right now because it was actually it was really compelling. Let me see. I shall tell you. Do, 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 do. Okay. I said that I wanted rituals that'll keep me grounded and flow towards higher consciousness.
Mm,
And it told me that on Mondays, it's all about art and spirit. Tuesday, ancestral learning. Wednesday, wonder in nature. Like go outside and simply observe for 10 minutes, sketch or photograph something from nature that moves you. So it gave me these really actionable
yeah.
tasks. And so I'm going to drop it into my schedule in the evening and I'm going to go do them every day for a few weeks and see what
Okay.
happens.
When you're done with this experiment, I want to hear what happens.
Yeah.
So either we bring you back for a quick update or you write something and I can share it.
Yeah.
But I'm very curious to see what it gives back to you and which ritual or which experience you found more meaningful. Because I'm mixing a lot of things up. I've started, as you know, which is why I was so excited about the Brightland Paint and Pour. I started painting, I guess maybe a year ago. I painted a trench coat with like fruits on it. I was painting like fun little things just to create that brain space and just trying different ways of expressing myself. Lots of different small things just to see what lit me up or felt good. Or we've been to the arcade together, connecting to our inner children
Yes.
and
Yes.
going doing things like that. I'm always trying to come back to the joy center and what are the tools we can use to get to that level of quiet, calm presence and
Yes.
joy.
Yes. And I think that it's a work in progress constantly. But I will definitely let you know how this ritual exercise that AI gave me.
This is also why if we use AI in the right way, and I have an episode about this, In that episode, it talks about how AI, when used as a great tool for us, it actually expands our neural capacity. But we have to use it in the right way, which is that it is a tool. This is a great example of how do I use this as a tool? I've used it as a marketing partner, like a CMO. I've been like, can you help me with some ideas? Because that's not my strong suit. And then that gives me a launch pad to then go experiment and try things without replacing the doing of the thing.
Brilliant.
I'm so grateful that you came and shared with us today. This
Me
was so
too.
special,
Thank you for having
so fun. And I know you have a complicated relationship, but to me, you really are the most intentional ritual creator I know. And I admire that about you. And I love that presence that you bring into every part of your life.
I'm honored to hear that. And at the same time, it also is deeply inspiring to continue to do that in an intentional way. And you've reignited my interest in ritual.
Oh,
So
how
I'm
great.
actually going to spend some time looking at rituals from my heritage because I
Oh,
think it's something that has really been deprioritized in my life. So thank you for this
I'm looking forward to hearing what you learned too.
so much. It's time for me to learn more about where I come from.
Oh, yeah. I think the same. I want to do an ancestral tour because we lost so much of my family in the Holocaust. But I want to go recapture some of that in Poland and Romania, my grandparents' homeland.
Denise,
But
I think it could be game changing. I've had friends do that and it changes them forever.
well, we need to. My grandma's birth certificate doesn't exist because she had to doctor one to come to Venezuela to then Trinidad, where my mom's from. So we were looking into it to get Polish citizenship because you can reclaim it, but we don't have any of the documents. And so to actually find them, I told my mom, we're going to have to go. But actually, what I'd like to do, if I can get it together in time, because my mother's getting older, is do it, but document it properly, video it, the journey, and seeing what we learned, and also sharing that time with my mom. Because as she's getting older, one of the rituals I'm trying to instill in my life is asking her a lot of the questions that I never asked
Mm.
and recording some of those. I have found that when we have those conversations, there is a depth of connection and a breakthrough that we don't experience in our day-to-day back and forth.
Yeah, I love that so much.
Okay, so that's my to-do. You've inspired me. I've got I've got
Yes.
to go on that.
Let's go back.
Okay,
Let's go back. Let's go back to where we came from and our roots.
we have to.
Thank you for this beautiful conversation.
Thank you so much for listening. If you do like listening, it would mean the world to us if you could subscribe or review the podcast anywhere that you watch or listen to the podcast. It really helps with the algorithm to share this with the world. I want to give a special thank you to young Spielberg and Sarah Yarkin for their beautiful work on our opening jingle, Dana Boulos for her help with the beautiful art, and to all of you for tuning in and keeping this dream alive. If you want to hear certain topics or from certain guests, please feel free to email us. We really, really want to hear from you and see how we can best support you. See you next time.